The interpreter can't make it? Then, what will happen to the $30 million deal? 6 months into my job at a prestigious Japanese restaurant, I spent my days washing dishes. But my peaceful routine came to an abrupt end. A $30 million business negotiation landed at the restaurant. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Sakura, struggling with financial difficulties, to turn things around. However, on the very day of the crucial meeting, the interpreter, a key figure in sealing the deal, canceled at the last minute, plunging us into crisis. This was our last chance. Now everything is over. Kairi, the proprietress, looked pale with worry and fear. While the head chef and the rest of the staff stood frozen, helpless, I stepped out from the dishwashing area. "I'll handle it." Voices of disbelief erupted at my bold statement. "Hey, what are you even saying? You're just a dishwasher." The younger chefs exchanged incredulous glances. Nobody imagined that this man could save the day from impending disaster. Then, the front door swung open, and the VIP guests from abroad appeared. One of them, upon seeing my face, gasped as though encountering the unimaginable. "No way. Why are you here?" The stunned voice froze the entire kitchen. Nobody there could understand the meaning behind those words. My hidden past, unknown to everyone, was about to be revealed. Quietly but surely, the curtain on this story was about to rise. The kitchen of the esteemed Japanese restaurant, Sakura, was still buzzing with energy even as the evening service neared its end. I, Sean Stanley, stood before the sink, handling the fine lacquered dishes lined up in front of me. Suddenly, the head chef, Kisaburo, barked at me. "Sean, how many times do I have to tell you? Do you really think it's okay to wash like that? These are our guests' precious dishes." Admittedly, I had been rushing earlier and nearly stacked the dishes to wash them. "I'm sorry." I bowed deeply, and Kisaburo clicked his tongue in frustration. The head chef, over 70 years old, was like a living repository of Sakura's traditions, preserving its legacy for decades. These dishes are priceless artifacts passed down since the Edo period. Each one carries its own history. If you can't respect that, you have no place in this kitchen. Do it again, and you're out of here tomorrow. "Yes, sir." As I responded, Kisaburo muttered, "Useless," under his breath and walked away. Sakura was a 150-year-old establishment with deep roots. Its garden featured a 300-year-old cherry blossom tree brought from Japan, its branches gracefully drooping. In this place, where traditions and techniques refined by generations of chefs were still cherished, the meticulous handling of dishes was paramount. As I carefully wiped each plate, my gaze dropped to the floor. In the dimly lit garden, only the gentle sound of water echoed quietly. "Sean, you're still cleaning up?" A soft voice spoke from behind. I turned to see Kairi standing there. Her neatly tied black hair in a bun and the deep indigo kimono suited her perfectly. Despite her dazzling beauty, her smile was always warm and kind to everyone. "I saw Kisaburo scolding you earlier. Are you okay?" Raising the hem of her kimono slightly, Kairi stood beside me and began putting the wiped dishes back on the shelf with care. "Kairi, you don't need to. I'll take care of it. It's fine. I'm a staff member here too. Besides, I really appreciate you staying late every night to clean up." She smiled softly as she spoke. The serene smile on her porcelain-like skin seemed to soothe even the most exhausted heart, and I found myself momentarily captivated. While Kairi upheld the dignity and traditions of the establishment, her approach toward the staff was warm and approachable. "Oh, but make sure to listen to Kisaburo. He's more particular about how dishes are handled than anyone else. I was often scolded by him as a child too." Kairi giggled softly and raised her index finger, gently cautioning me. Her gesture was so endearing that I couldn't help but smile. Her mix of intelligence and occasional playful charm naturally eased my heart. "Yes, I'll be more careful. All right, I'll leave you to it. Good night." A strand of hair that escaped her bun swayed as she walked down the hallway. Watching her retreating figure, I felt the day slowly coming to an end. The next afternoon, while taking a break in the courtyard during prep work, I heard Kyrie sigh. She was usually cheerful, but there she was, sitting on the veranda, glaring at the ledger in her hands. What should I do? I hesitated to approach her, but her downcast expression worried me. Summoning my courage, I walked over. Is something troubling you? Oh, Sean. Well, sales have been declining over the past 6 months. People say that traditional high-end restaurants like this can be intimidating. And the impact of the pandemic has been severe. At this rate, I might not be able to preserve Sakura, which has been passed down for generations. Kyrie hesitantly showed me the ledger. The numbers were indeed grim. After thinking for a moment, I cautiously made a suggestion. If you're open to it, perhaps you could consider promoting the restaurant to international guests? International. Yes, by posting information on the Michelin website or other review platforms. Since Japanese cuisine was added to the UNESCO Cultural Heritage List, there's been a surge of foreign tourists wanting to experience authentic Japanese dining. A meal at a fine establishment like Sakura would be a priceless memory for many. The delicate presentation of the dishes and the charm of this garden would be perfect for social media. Once I started, I couldn't stop talking. Kyrie's eyes began to light up. Additionally, you could accept reservations through a website or social media and advertise vegetarian or halal menu options if available. Wait, let me write this down. She pulled a small notebook from her kimono sleeve and started jotting everything down in quick succession. Her profile, glowing with renewed energy, was a refreshing sight. Thank you, Sean. You're incredible, coming up with solutions so quickly. Did you work in tourism or as a restaurant consultant? Kyrie's sparkling eyes caught me off guard, and I shook my head modestly. No, I'm just a dishwasher. Oh, don't be modest. You're so knowledgeable. You understand international guests and promotion strategies so well. She playfully tapped my arm with a teasing smile. Her earlier gloom completely gone. I'm serious. I just imagined how Japanese cuisine and traditions might appear to others and how we could better communicate their appeal. Looking up at the cherry blossom tree in the courtyard, I chose my words carefully. Really? Kyrie looked at me with a curious face. She was about to say something but ended up silently smiling. All right, Sean. Teach me more. I want to do everything I can to protect Sakura. Of course. Sunlight streamed onto the veranda, and the pages of her notebook fluttered in the breeze. About a month after my suggestion, Kyrie posted information about the restaurant on various platforms. A British family who saw the listings visited Sakura and later uploaded photos with hashtags to a review site. Tourists who saw those posts began making reservations one after another. Sean, look at this. One day, Kyrie excitedly showed me her phone screen. Photos of Sakura's garden and the beautifully prepared dishes had garnered thousands of likes. This person is a journalist. It looks like they're going to write an article about us. The comments section was filled with words like beautiful and amazing. Sakura's reputation quietly but steadily spread, especially among international tourists, beyond just the local community. Excuse me, the next dish is ready. As I carried out the food from the kitchen, I could hear the delighted exclamations of the guests. The phone flashes lit up, accompanied by cheers. The chef's meticulous work was being recognized across borders. It's all thanks to your advice, Sean. Kyrie said happily as she checked the reservation book. Indeed, next month's bookings were nearly full. Many of them were from international guests. No, it's because you were open to taking on new challenges, Kyrie. But I'm so glad. Hugging the reservation book to her chest, Kyrie looked relieved. We both felt that Sakura's future was gradually becoming brighter. Even late into the night, the kitchen was alive with energy. Smiles from guests worldwide breathed new life into the old establishment. However, not everyone was pleased with the current situation. One morning, during the staff meeting, Kyrie stood before the assembled chefs. "I'm thinking of creating a new course menu. It would include modified dishes for vegetarians and using halal-certified ingredients." The moment Kyrie said that, the air in the kitchen froze. "Are you kidding me?" Kisaburo slammed his fist on the counter. The chefs nearby instinctively took a step back. This restaurant has been dedicated to traditional Japanese cuisine since the Edo period. And now you want to compromise that by tweaking the menu? This isn't some casual dining restaurant. This is a place that preserves Japanese tradition. Kisaburo's angry voice echoed through the silent kitchen. "But, Kisaburo." As I started to speak, his sharp glare pierced through me. "It's you, isn't it? You're the one who planted these ideas in Kyrie's head." "Well, I did suggest it, but..." "Shut up. Stripping away what makes this place authentically Japanese, who would want that? Are you planning to destroy what previous generations built? I won't approve of any such menu. That's final." With those words, Kisaburo stormed out of the kitchen. A heavy silence hung in the air among those who remained. After the meeting, I found Kyrie sitting on the edge of the old well in the corner of the garden. She looked more exhausted than usual. "Kyrie." When I called out to her, she gave me a forlorn smile. "I'm sorry, Sean. You gave me such great advice, and now we have guests coming from all over the world. But I can't make the most of it." Her words tightened my chest. "There's no need to apologize." I sat down beside her. The morning sun cast our shadows on the garden stones. "But I understand what Kisaburo is saying too. This restaurant carries things that have been cherished for generations. He's worried that my rash decisions might destroy them." The faint sound of water echoed from the well. Countless chefs before us had used this water to wash dishes and make broth. "But I don't think what you're doing is wrong, Kyrie. Tradition isn't just about doing the same thing over and over. It's about preserving the essence while adapting to the times. That's what true inheritance is. You're seeking new paths precisely because you want to protect Sakura's traditions. If the number of customers keeps declining, there won't be anything left to protect." My voice grew stronger without realizing it. Kyrie slowly lifted her face. "Thank you, Sean." Her once weak smile regained a bit of brightness. "You know, I used to dislike Japanese cuisine." She suddenly confessed, surprising me. "Really?" "Yes. My father was a strict man. He told me from a young age that I was Sakura's successor. Table manners were strict. And he made me study cooking almost every day. It was suffocating." Kyrie's gaze drifted off as she looked up at the cherry blossom tree in the garden. "But there was one day that changed everything for me." "Changed? What happened?" "Yes. I went on a trip to London, and I got separated from the tour guide. I didn't know English back then, and I was completely lost. Just when I was about to cry, an American stranger approached me and offered help." Kyrie's voice softened, filled with nostalgia. "While walking around with them to find my guide, they told me many things about how Japanese cuisine was becoming increasingly popular worldwide and how people abroad admired Japan's food culture. But they also said that many Japanese restaurants overseas didn't serve authentic Japanese food." She placed her hand on the edge of the well and looked up at the sky, continuing. "They told me that people overseas crave authentic Japanese cuisine, such as the delicate flavors of broth and dishes highlighting seasonal ingredients. But such restaurants are still rare." Kyrie paused, lowering her gaze as though organizing her thoughts. That's when I realized, for the first time, how wonderful Japan looks from the outside. Japanese cuisine isn't just food. And it embodies our aesthetics, our sense of the seasons, and our spirit of hospitality. What I once saw as a burden are traditions. suddenly felt so precious. Her eyes glistened with emotion. That's why, Sean, I want to share the true beauty of authentic Japanese cuisine with people around the world through Sakura. Preserving traditions, but in a new way. I believe that's my mission as the successor of this restaurant. The rising sun cast long shadows from the garden's trees. Kyrie stood up and touched the trunk of the old cherry blossom tree. The centuries-old tree gleamed in the sunlight, its bark warm and rich in color. Welcoming guests from diverse backgrounds doesn't mean erasing our Japanese identity. On the contrary, it's an opportunity to share the pride of our culinary culture with more people. Even something as simple as the way we hold a bowl reflects Japanese aesthetics. The beauty in the spaces between plated food. The luxury of enjoying a meal alongside the garden view. These are experiences unique to Sakura. Her voice grew stronger, filled with conviction. Adapting menus to suit our guests isn't a compromise. It's a new form of hospitality that helps people understand the essence of Japanese cuisine. It's a significant way to showcase traditional Japanese food, isn't it? The cherry blossom branches swayed gently in the morning breeze. Kyrie turned to me, her determined gaze unwavering. I want to turn Sakura's traditions into a treasure we can proudly share with the world. To do that, I believe we must embrace change. Little by little. That's how we truly preserve Japanese food culture. Her words carried the resolve of a successor and a profound love for Japanese cuisine. In the morning mist, Kyrie's profile appeared even more dignified. I looked at her and spoke softly. Your feelings will surely be understood, Kyrie. Your desire to protect Sakura, honor its traditions, and share Japan's beauty with more people. It's a strength that resonates deeply. I'm confident even Kisaburo will come to understand. A breeze stirred, gently moving the loose strands of her hair. The sunlight caught her dark hair, making it glow beautifully. Kyrie turned to face me. Her eyes shimmered with faint tears. Sean, thank you. You always support me. Because of you, I feel like I can keep going. Her words made my heart race. The usually cheerful Kyrie now seemed delicate, and that made her all the more endearing. I noticed a faint blush on her cheeks. I was at a loss for words and could only look at her. Oh, sorry. That was weird of me to say. She quickly averted her gaze, flustered. Her reaction was so charming that I couldn't help but smile. No, I feel lucky to be here with you, Kyrie. The sun rose higher, marking the start of a new day. The air between us felt a little warmer than usual. At a morning meeting a few days later, Kyrie's voice carried an unusual excitement. Everyone, I have an announcement. Recently, we received a business proposal from a major Icelandic investment firm. Their executives, while traveling in the US for negotiations, requested a traditional Japanese dining experience. And they chose us, Sakura. If this goes well, we'll secure a contract projected to bring in $30 million annually. A moment of silence was followed by an uproar in the kitchen. $30 million? The younger chefs couldn't contain their astonishment. Even for a high-end restaurant, such a large-scale negotiation was unprecedented. They said they want to experience the essence of Japanese cuisine, nurtured and polished here at Sakura in the US, which has gained global attention. Kyrie's voice brimmed with pride. Excited whispers of anticipation spread among the chefs. We've hired a top-notch interpreter for this, someone well-versed in culinary terminology. They'll ensure the dishes and their significance are conveyed perfectly. Everything is scheduled for 3 weeks from now. Let's all do our best to prepare as we always do. Kyrie's voice exuded confidence. With a reliable interpreter secured, preparations for the major negotiation finally began in earnest. All right, everyone, let's do our best. The energetic call of a young chef filled the kitchen with enthusiasm. At that moment, a sound came from the back of the room. Turning, I saw Kisaburo sharpening his knife with furrowed brows and tightly pressed lips. His trembling hands betrayed a mix of emotions. On the morning of the negotiation, the kitchen buzzed with a blend of tension and anticipation. Chefs meticulously honed their knives, while servers repeatedly practiced the art of presenting dishes. Everyone was determined to make the $30 million deal a success, waiting anxiously for the interpreter's arrival. Kyrie. There's a problem. A young server burst in, visibly flustered. We just got a call from the interpreter. They were hospitalized last night with acute food poisoning. The color drained from Kyrie's face. No. The guests from Iceland have already arrived in the US and will be here in just 3 hours. Finding another interpreter capable of handling a negotiation of this scale now. Her hand trembled slightly as she clutched her phone. We'll contact other interpreter agencies. The server urgently began making calls. No luck. There aren't many interpreters proficient in Icelandic and knowledgeable about Japanese cuisine and culture. Time ticked by relentlessly. The once hopeful air of the kitchen turned heavy with unease. The chefs stopped working, and the staff expressions grew tense. Everyone grasped the gravity of the situation. Without a professional interpreter, the $30 million negotiation was impossible. There would be no way to explain the ingredients, cooking methods, or the restaurant's history. This is the extent of it after all. What kind of a fool would dishonor the name that his predecessors and predecessors had risked their lives to build? A cold, disdainful voice rang out. Kisaburo stepped forward, his gaze piercing. I even decided to enter the US after much deliberation, but now you've stooped to such pandering business deals? How presumptuous. You're tarnishing the legacy that previous generations risked their lives to build. Are you not ashamed of this pitiful display? His words cut deep into Kyrie's heart like a blade. Her trembling voice faltered, and her shoulders slumped. The morning sun streaming through the window cruelly illuminated the single tear trailing down her cheek. I stepped forward from the sink, standing tall. I'll handle this. My voice shattered the silence, and all eyes turned to me. What? Hey, what are you talking about? You're just a dishwasher. Laughter echoed through the kitchen. The younger chefs exchanged incredulous glances, their disbelief evident. Sean, I appreciate your sentiment, but this is a $30 million negotiation. There will be technical terms, legal discussions, and detailed explanations about the dishes. Even professional interpreters without knowledge of Japanese cuisine have turned us down. You don't have to push yourself. Kyrie smiled apologetically, clearly hurt by the ridicule from the chefs. Seeing her, who had worked so hard and faced forward all this time, on the verge of giving up was agonizing. I met her gaze and repeated firmly. It's fine. Leave it to me. Kisaburo crossed his arms, looking down at me coldly. Do you even speak Icelandic? A guy who can't even wash dishes properly. I'm confident in my Icelandic. My simple answer froze the room. Kisaburo's expression shifted drastically. Kisaburo's usual composure crumbled, replaced by an anger that boiled to the surface. Don't be ridiculous. Don't get carried away. You're just a dishwasher. Confidence? Let's see you try. You'll only ruin the negotiation and disgrace Sakura on a global scale. He turned on his heel and stormed into the kitchen. An awkward silence settled over the room. Then, suddenly, the guests have arrived. A staff's voice jolted everyone into action. Kyrie, her face tense, hurried to the entrance. I followed closely behind her, exhaling deeply. Kisaburo and the other chefs trailed behind, ready to greet the guests. Several luxury cars were parked at the entrance. One by one, individuals in sharp suits stepped out, exclaiming in admiration. Although the entrance was small, they seemed captivated by the grand garden and the old cherry blossom tree visible beyond, radiating timeless charm. The last to step out was a blonde woman with a serene demeanor. She was Adele Brain's daughter, the lead negotiator for the deal. The moment she stepped into the entrance, she froze. Her eyes locked onto me, wide with disbelief. "Sean? What are you doing here?" Her astonished voice echoed, freezing the atmosphere. Everyone turned their eyes toward me. "No way. It's been so long. Since Harvard, right?" "Harvard." At these words, the chefs murmured in surprise. Kyrie's eyes darted between me and the blonde woman, wide with shock. Adele, you know him?" Kyrie's hesitant question was translated, and Adele smiled warmly. "Yes, Sean and I studied together at Harvard. He was always top of the class there. He even skipped grades in the economics department. But what stood out most was his research on Japanese culinary traditions. His thesis on preserving and innovating traditional cuisine received the highest accolades in the department's history. Major Wall Street firms were vying for him, but he disappeared after graduation, which worried me." "Adele, that's enough," I interjected, hastily trying to calm her down as she excitedly rattled off in Icelandic. But it was too late. "Sean, translate what she just said." Reluctantly, I translated every word into Japanese. The room fell silent. The chef stared at me with wide eyes, while Kyrie held her hands over her mouth, speechless. Even Kisaburo looked at me with an expression of utter disbelief. "Why would someone like you be washing dishes here?" Kyrie's voice was faint, almost trembling. "I'll explain everything later. For now, let's focus on the negotiation." I stepped forward calmly. Adele nodded and smiled. "Let's get started then." The next 2 hours felt like a dream. I explained the dishes not as mere translations but by weaving in the cultural and historical contexts behind them. The broth in this soup is made using a secret technique, passed down since the Edo period. It balances kombu, which is Japanese seaweed, and bonito flakes to draw out the deepest umami flavors. The executives' eyes lit up as they listened intently. The highlight came when I described Kisaburo's Edo-style sushi. This technique has been handed down from master to apprentice for over 200 years. What you see before you is the culmination of a tradition that preserves the past while evolving to meet the future. A true jewel of Japanese culinary culture. Adele listened to the interpretation with visible emotion, while the other executives scribbled notes fervently. At Sakura, our wish is to share this authentic Japanese culture with as many people as possible. As I concluded, Adele stood up. "This contract is sealed. In fact, I'm tempted to add even better terms. Sakura's value far exceeds what we initially thought." When I translated Adele's words, tears welled up in Kyrie's eyes. As evening fell after the successful negotiation, Kyrie and I stood beneath the cherry blossom tree in the garden. The sunset bathed the sky in warm hues, with dappled sunlight filtering through the branches, casting soft shadows between us. "Thank you so much for today's negotiation." Kyrie's voice sounded soft. "Thanks to you, Sakura's future is brighter. We can protect our traditions while embracing new challenges. Securing such an incredible contract feels like a dream." Her eyes glistened as she bowed deeply. Flustered, I waved my hands. "No, it's nothing. Your feelings simply reached them, Kyrie." "No, that's not it. It's because you understood Sakura, Japanese culture, and its history so deeply and conveyed it so beautifully." "But..." She paused, her gaze fixed firmly on me. "Promise me. Tell me the truth. Why would a Harvard graduate with so much talent be working as a dishwasher here? With your abilities, you could have taken any path." Her voice was kind but earnest, full of a desire to understand. I looked down slightly, carefully choosing my words. "At Harvard, I was researching the fusion of Japan's traditional culture with economics, such as how Japan's traditional industries could adapt to a globalized world without losing their essence. I studied the management models of long-standing businesses and the future of traditional crafts. The sun shines through the trees. It was a little hard to carry on the words. But right before my presentation, my research results were stolen by a senior in my lab. He presented my work as his own, publishing a paper that gained worldwide acclaim. When I tried to expose the truth, no one believed me. All the evidence had been erased. I sensed Kyrie move closer. Every day was a struggle. I felt like I had no choice but to throw everything away and live somewhere no one would notice me. That's why I fled to London. I see. She nodded softly as I resumed my story. I spent my days sitting at a cafe along the Thames, staring blankly at the river, unable to think about anything. One day, I saw a Japanese woman who seemed lost. Before I knew it, I had approached her. Kyrie gasped audibly. Wait. Could it be that you were the one who helped me when I was lost in London? Yes, it was me, I said, smiling slightly. The memory of that day returned vividly, as though it had happened yesterday. While searching for your tour guide, I also showed you around London. You seemed particularly interested in how Japanese cuisine was perceived abroad. I remember taking you to various Japanese restaurants in London. That's when you said something that struck me. From a foreign perspective, Japanese cuisine is so special. The care for each ingredient, the delicacy in expressing the seasons, and the thoughtfulness toward guests. What we take for granted as Japanese is a treasure that captivates the world. Those words shook me to my core. The wind rustled the cherry branches above. I lowered my gaze momentarily. I thought I had lost everything when my research was stolen. The frustration of not being believed and the weight of my helplessness. It was overwhelming. But hearing your pure realization, I began to understand. It's not the outcomes of a thesis that matter, it's the love and respect for Japan's traditional culture that still lived within me. I lifted my eyes to meet hers. As you said, Japanese cuisine truly is extraordinary. The techniques that enhance ingredients, the appreciation of the seasons, and the spirit of hospitality, they made me realize that I wanted to protect and share Japan's beauty. After that, I returned to Harvard and shifted my research focus to Japanese cuisine, specifically the traditions and innovations of long-standing restaurants. Meeting you gave me a new purpose. Kyrie's eyes glistened in the twilight. After graduation, I struggled to find a path where I could apply my research. That's when I saw Sakura's job posting. It was for a dishwasher. But I thought it was perfect for me. I wanted to learn about the world of Japanese cuisine from the ground up. And I paused briefly, looking directly at her. When I stepped through the restaurant's entrance, I realized something. I wanted to repay you. You, the person who saved me that day in London. Even if no one noticed, being part of this restaurant was my way of giving back. Sean. Her voice trembled, and tears streamed down her cheeks, illuminated by the setting sun. I'm sorry, but I'm so happy. I can't believe my simple words helped you in such a profound way. She pressed a handkerchief to her eyes, her kimono sleeve trembling softly. After wiping her tears, she looked at me with unwavering determination. Sean, I have a request. I want you to lead Sakura's global expansion. Your experience, knowledge, and, most importantly, your passion for Japanese cuisine are exactly what we need. Watching you during today's negotiation, I understood clearly. You're the one we need to create Sakura's future while respecting its traditions. There was no hesitation in Kyrie's voice. In the garden as dusk approached, Kyrie's words warmly seeped into my heart. Yes. If I can be of help in any way, I'd be honored. A gentle breeze stirred, carrying cherry blossoms through the air. A single petal slowly drifted down between us. A few days later, we were deep in discussion, brainstorming a new menu. How about this for Sakura's special course for international guests? I presented the menu I had devised to Kairi. Young chefs had also gathered in the kitchen to listen. The traditional flow of Japanese cuisine is preserved, but I've incorporated elements that would be more familiar to international diners. For example, the soup course uses the secret broth technique from the Edo period, paired with matsutake mushrooms and a hint of truffle, creating a bridge between Japanese and Western flavors. This looks absolutely beautiful, Kairi said, her eyes sparkling as she studied the menu. The young chefs leaned in, intrigued. For the grilled dish, we'll use charcoal grilled wagyu, a type of premium Japanese beef. Guests can choose from 3 sauces: a Japanese-style sauce with Japanese pepper, a Western-style sauce finished with Madeira wine, or a fusion sauce with yuzu citrus peppers. I'd love to try making that. One of the younger chefs raised his hand enthusiastically, his eyes gleaming with excitement for the challenge. When I finished explaining, the excitement in the room was palpable. This is wonderful. Preserving tradition while opening new doors, this is exactly what we're striving for. The chefs nodded at Kairi's words. The kitchen was filled with anticipation for a new era. The next morning, Kairi stood up during the staff meeting, holding the proposal for the new menu. I have an announcement. Starting next month, we will introduce a new special course. This is a new initiative to share the beauty of Japanese cuisine with more people while honoring the techniques passed down through tradition. She passed the proposal around. The young chef's eyes sparkled as they saw the colorful photos of the new dishes. I'm not doing it. Kisaburo's angry voice suddenly rang out. Wagyu beef with French sauce? Matcha panna cotta? That's not Japanese cuisine. The sound of him slapping the proposal away echoed through the kitchen. Kairi stepped closer to Kisaburo. Kisaburo, this isn't about disregarding tradition. It's about sharing it with more people. Shut up. If it means tarnishing the legacy passed down from previous generations, I'd rather leave. I quit. Kisaburo's voice trembled. It seemed not just anger but profound sadness. Kairi looked at him in shock. A senior chef stepped forward. I agree with Kisaburo. I can't accept these changes either. I'm resigning. Then one by one, voices echoed, me too, so am I. All the experienced chefs who had supported Sakura for years declared their intention to leave. Please reconsider it for Sakura's future. We're not discarding tradition. We want to share the beauty of Sakura with more people. Kairi's voice grew faint, her hands trembling as she clutched the proposal. But the experienced chefs had already turned their backs. Goodbye. This isn't the Sakura I know anymore. The kitchen door slammed shut, and their heavy footsteps faded into the distance. An oppressive silence filled the air among those who remained. By the end of lunch service, the kitchen was weighed down by exhaustion. With fewer staff, the younger chefs were doing their best, but the strain was showing. Kairi, at this rate, will have to turn guests away. Without the experienced chefs, we can't manage all the courses. Especially the sashimi and grilled courses, it's impossible to handle multiple parties at once. A chef reported, and Kairi quietly lowered her gaze. Just then, there was a presence near the entrance. Well, it's been a while, Sean. The voice made me freeze. Turning around, I saw him, Luke Shepard, my senior from Harvard, standing there. Luke. Kairi glanced between me and Luke, her expression showing her struggle to grasp the situation. Looks like you're in a bit of trouble. I heard all the experienced chefs quit. As your senior from college, I thought I'd offer my help. Luke said, his tone superficially friendly but laced with something cold. What are you doing here? Small world, isn't it? Sean, I was shocked to hear you're working here. Washing dishes, no less. His last words carried clear mockery, filling the kitchen with tension. I have a solution for your predicament. Sell Sakura to me. What? Sell Sakura? Before a puzzled Kairi, Luke took out a document from his bag. You know I'm currently the vice president of a leading global dining group, right? I've acquired 10 renowned dining establishments over the past 5 years. Now, I'm interested in a Japanese restaurant like this. I'm prepared to offer a fair price for the land, its 150-year history, and everything else, including employment guarantees for the remaining staff. I want to turn Sakura into the crown jewel of a new high-end Japanese dining chain we're launching. A dining chain. Kairi's voice quivered. Yes. A premium line of Japanese casual diners. Using Sakura's name will bring authentic Japanese cuisine to a broader audience. With a more approachable concept. It's a business model for the future. Don't be ridiculous. I couldn't hold back my voice. What's this business model nonsense? Are you planning to turn Sakura's traditions into something cheap and commercial? Still clinging to the same ideas, Sean. Just like when you lost your research. You haven't learned to adapt to the times. Traditions are nothing but brand value. That's not true. A calm but resolute voice cut through the room. Kairi stepped forward. Sakura is not for sale. This place holds the dreams and pride of generations before us. The craftsmanship of our chefs and the bond we share with our guests, these are our treasures. They're not something that can be bought with money. Ha, is this a beautiful thing to do when you are in trouble? If things continue as they are, Sakura will go under. Are you still going to keep the tradition? Yes, we will protect this place. No matter how hard it will be, with our own hands. Luke's smirk faded, replaced by a cold glint in his eyes. I recommend thinking it over, he said, turning his back and leaving with an air of finality. A heavy silence fell over the kitchen. Kairi, I'm so sorry. Luke's targeting this place because of me. He's the one who stole my research and drove me to the edge. He must think taking this restaurant from me will be easy. If I weren't here. You're wrong. Kairi's sharp voice interrupted me. Her eyes shone with conviction. Sean, it's because of you that we've come this far. You gave us the courage to preserve our traditions while embracing new challenges. You taught us to broaden our vision and look toward the world. She gently took my hand, her grip steady and warm. So please. Can you fight with me? For Sakura's future. Her words ignited a deep warmth in my chest. Are you sure? Of course. We'll protect this place together. The battles ahead would undoubtedly be tough. But the thought of standing alongside Kairi filled me with courage. However, the pressing reality of Sakura's precarious situation hadn't changed. The broth's too hot. Sorry. Grilled dish for table 3, is it ready yet? Almost. There was a flurry of activity in the kitchen. Young chefs run around hard to fill the holes left by the experienced chefs. I'm sorry, but we can't take any more reservations for today. Kairi's voice echoed hollowly as she bowed over the phone, apologizing to yet another disappointed guest. Less than half the tables in the restaurant were occupied. The lack of skilled hands and experience meant they couldn't deliver multiple courses simultaneously. The grill station can't keep up. I messed up the simmered dish's heat, it's gone cold and needs reheating. The timing for plating is tricky. The ingredients in the thickened soup are inconsistent, some are too soft, and others too hard. Kisaburo would have noticed in a second. The voices of struggling young chefs filled the air, and responses couldn't keep up. Each dish took too long to prepare, causing delays in service. Customers waited longer. And the quality of the food suffered compared to when the experienced chefs were present. Mistakes that experienced chefs would avoid, like adjusting heat or gauging doneness, required multiple attempts by the younger team. Even as night wore on, sweat glistened on everyone's foreheads. Although they managed to keep the restaurant running. The difficulty of maintaining quality while ensuring efficiency loomed heavier with each passing day. "This can't go on," Kyrie muttered, her tired face turned downward. She understood the young chefs needed time to grow. But could Sakura afford to wait? The air of unease in the kitchen was suffocating, and no one could dispel it. One evening, Adele arrived in the kitchen with a group of foreign chefs in tow. Each exuded a sense of elegance and confidence. "Sean, I heard about the situation. I've arranged for these chefs to help for the next 6 months." "What?" "They're all highly trained professionals who've studied Japanese cuisine at top-tier restaurants. Some are head chefs from Michelin-starred establishments. They have immense respect for traditional Japanese cuisine. And since this is also an opportunity for them to learn, they're fine being paid the same as the junior chefs here." Behind her, the chefs bowed deeply, their movements reflecting an understanding of Japanese etiquette. "Thank you. But why would you do this?" Adele looked down briefly, then began to speak slowly. "When I heard that Luke stole your research, I did nothing." Her voice wavered. "At the time, I was so caught up in my own work." "I imagine you must have felt the same way. But despite that, you always supported me. Whenever I hit a wall, you stayed up all night to help. Every time I wanted to give up, you told me, 'There's research only you can do.' But when you disappeared and when Luke presented your work as his own, I just stood by and watched." Adele took a deep breath, her gaze steady. "I can't turn back time. But now, I can help protect what's important to you. This is my way of repaying you. Please, accept it." Her words struck a chord deep within me, and my chest grew warm. My vision blurred as tears welled up. Someone placed a hand on my shoulder. I turned to see Kyrie smiling gently at me. The kitchen was filled with the warmth of new allies. Bathed in the soft glow of twilight, the fears that had taken root in my heart began to dissolve, replaced by a wave of tears. Over the next few days, the chefs came to help not only prepare dishes but also shared their skills with the young team. "This is how you fillet sea bream into 3 pieces. Align the knife along the spine and gently guide it down. Don't press too hard. Let your fingers feel the bone as you cut. When making broth, keep this temperature in mind." The young chefs eagerly took notes as I translated the instructions. "They're incredible," I muttered in awe, watching the chefs' precise movements from the corner of the kitchen. Their expertise steadily bolstered the skills of Sakura's younger team. Weeks later, Sakura was flourishing like never before. The restaurant was fully booked every night. Foreign guests filled the tables, and word of mouth brought back American diners in droves. "This sea bream cured with kombu seaweed is exquisite. The depth of flavor in the broth is outstanding." The beauty of the presentation moved me deeply. Every time a dish was served, the guests' praise echoed back. Under the guidance of the chefs, the younger team's skills were improving day by day. "One more, please. I'm booking my next visit right now." That was amazing. The guests' smiles began to restore the energy in the kitchen. Seeing the younger chefs train tirelessly late into the night, it felt like Sakura's future was finally coming into view. "Thanks to everyone, the smiles have returned," Kyrie said, looking around the kitchen with a relieved expression. Outside the window, the old cherry blossom tree was preparing for a new season of budding blossoms. One night, when Sakura was gradually regaining its vibrancy, I stayed late in the kitchen, checking the next day's procurement list. With more international reservations, arranging ingredients had become increasingly complex. "Well done, Sean. I'm impressed you managed to bring Adele to your side." Came a sudden voice. I turned to find Luke standing there, wearing a smug expression as he approached me slowly. "What do you want? Do you remember when I stole your research?" My hand froze at his words. "So it was you, Luke." "Haha, of course. It was ridiculously easy to make your research mine. Everyone trusted me over you. Watching you suffer in silence was quite entertaining." His words dredged up memories of that helplessness. But Luke continued, seemingly enjoying himself. Anyway, I've got something interesting for you. He pulled a USB drive from his pocket, spinning it between his fingers with a smirk. This contains the experimental data you worked on as an assistant in the economics department. I tampered with it to make it look like you falsified the results. If anyone had sided with you back then, I planned to release it. Fortunately, everyone believed you were the thief, so I never had to use it. But imagine what would happen if this were revealed now. You'd be branded a fraud who cheated at Harvard, and this time, the fallout would be even worse. Cold sweat ran down my back. If this gets out, Sakura will take a hit too. The media will report it as a restaurant harboring a fraud. All those guests you worked so hard to bring back will disappear overnight. Is that how you want this venerable establishment to end? Luke spun the USB drive in his hand, the moonlight catching its metallic gleam. Everything depends on your choice. Convince Kyrie to sell Sakura or end both your career and the restaurant's legacy. His words echoed coldly in the quiet kitchen. My mind went blank. Losing everything again. No, this time it wasn't just me. It would be Kyrie, the chefs, and Sakura. The USB glinted ominously in Luke's hand. The pressure of the decision drying my throat. At that moment, footsteps sounded from the back of the kitchen. Luke noticed just as Kisaburo snatched the USB from his hand. What? Kisaburo? Why are you here? I heard everything, Luke. How you stole Sean's research, your threats, and everything. And I recorded it all. Kisaburo held up his phone. Luke's face turned pale in an instant. Kisaburo stepped forward, his presence commanding. Behind him appeared the chefs who had left Sakura. Anger burned in their eyes as they advanced. Luke took a step back, his face twisted in panic. You betrayed me, Kisaburo. We had a deal. You're the one who betrayed us. Kisaburo's voice thundered through the kitchen. Yes, we initially accepted your offer, high salaries, positions as head chefs in your planned high-end Japanese restaurants, and the responsibility of training new chefs. But the chefs nodded in agreement with Kisaburo's words. But the reality was different. We were forced to follow a manual, use pre-made broth, and produce food that lacked any soul of Japanese cuisine. We weren't allowed to teach the younger chefs proper skills, just rote procedures. And on top of that, the restaurant was planned for chain expansion. That's the way the world works now. Efficiency and consistency are the strengths of dining chains. Who needs labor-intensive broth when powdered versions can achieve the same taste? Craftsmanship is obsolete because machines can do the work now. Tradition is just a roadblock to profitability, so it's nothing but a nuisance in business. You're wrong. Kisaburo took a bold step forward. Japanese cuisine is about heart. It's about the intention poured into each dish, the delicate expression of the seasons, and the sincerity shown to our guests. Sakura has fought desperately to protect that spirit. Working at your place made me finally realize that. Kisaburo sighed deeply, then turned to the chefs who gathered. They nodded and stepped forward, presenting documents in unison. Luke, your wrongdoings aren't just in this USB or the recording we have. Here are copies of the contracts you made young chefs sign at your dining chains. No overtime pay, no holidays. And the promise of becoming a manager was a lie. You stripped them of their dreams and used them as disposable labor. Kisaburo opened a thick file, flipping through the pages as the other chefs stood silently by. And here's the evidence of your dealings with suppliers of counterfeit ingredients. You passed off farm-raised tuna as wild-caught and falsified their origins. As a chef, such deceit is unforgivable. His voice resonated with a deep anger as he continued. And this is the final nail in the coffin, records of funds embezzled from traditional establishments. you preyed on struggling family businesses, promising financial relief, only to steal their money through fake investment schemes and funnel it into overseas accounts. Every historic restaurant you approached has gone under. You saw these establishments, protected by generations, as nothing more than tools to line your pockets. Page after page of evidence laid bare Luke's crimes. This can't be. How did you get all this? You underestimated us. We're chefs. We can spot when something is fake or real at a glance. Luke stammered, his face paling. By the way, all this evidence has already been sent to your company's board of directors. By now, they've likely filed for your arrest. Fraud, embezzlement, and breach of trust. You'll finally face justice for preying on the traditions of others. Luke's knees buckled, and he collapsed onto the kitchen floor. Why, Sean? Why do you always stand in my way? I looked down silently at Luke, who was gritting his teeth. Ever since Harvard, you've been a thorn in my side. I worked so hard, but my grades never improved. And yet, you effortlessly achieved results and earned everyone's trust. Luke's voice cracked as he confessed. When I stole your research, it felt like I'd finally won. But it was torment after that. The more praise I received, the more my heart ached. I thought crushing you would make that pain go away. I thought if you were gone, the gnawing in my chest would disappear. Under the moonlight, tears streaked down Luke's face. In the end, I was afraid of you. Afraid of your dedication to your research. His words echoed through the quiet kitchen. Kisaburo stepped forward, looking down at Luke. Everyone makes mistakes, but what matters is how you live afterward. Sean lost everything once, but he kept walking the path he believed in. That's where true strength lies. Kisaburo said, his voice both firm and compassionate. The other chefs nodded silently. Luke said nothing, his head hung low as tears continued to fall. As dawn broke over the kitchen, a sense of renewal filled the air. After Luke left, silence returned to the room. Kisaburo turned to me and bowed deeply. Sean, I'm sorry. We were so stubborn. We never tried to understand how much you and Kairi care for Sakura. We blindly believed our way was the only way. I, of all people, should have understood. I started as a dishwasher too. But I failed to see the meaning behind your quiet dedication. Kisaburo's voice cracked, and he lowered his head further. I have no right to stay here anymore. I brought shame to Sakura. Besides, I can't stomach cooking soulless food at a place like Luke's company. So, this is goodbye. As Kisaburo turned to leave, Kairi stood at the entrance of the kitchen. Kisaburo stopped in his tracks, startled. Tears stained Kairi's cheeks as she approached him slowly. Kisaburo, I heard everything. Kairi slowly approached Kisaburo. Even after joining Luke's company, you kept thinking about Sakura. That's why you gathered the evidence when you realized something was wrong. No, I only did it to atone for abandoning this place. No. Kairi's voice rang out firmly, echoing through the kitchen. Kisaburo, you truly protected the essence of Sakura's traditions. It wasn't just about the utensils or the formalities. It was about the pride of a chef, the sincerity in their work, and the care for their colleagues. That's the true legacy passed down at Sakura. Her words caused Kisaburo's shoulders to tremble. Kisaburo, would you please work with us again? We need you to teach your skills and your heart to the younger chefs. Tears streamed down Kisaburo's face. Kairi. Are you sure you want an old man like me? Yes. Sakura needs you, Kisaburo. In the kitchen, now bathed in the morning sunlight, Kisaburo wiped his eyes with a handkerchief and spoke in a shaky voice. Thank you. Nothing could make a chef prouder. Kairi, you've become a fine proprietress. The previous owner would be so proud of you. Kisaburo's voice quivered. and Kyrie's eyes glistened with tears as well. The chefs bowed deeply, showing their respect. Outside, the old cherry blossom tree stood silently, witnessing the beginning of a new day. A few days later, news of Luke's crimes dominated the headlines. Senior executive of major dining group exposed for defrauding historic restaurants read the breaking news. Further investigation revealed the theft of my research during our time at Harvard. Luke confessed to the allegations, and my name was officially cleared. Sean Stanley's research proven legitimate. Shepherd Issues apology was the headline across many newspapers. After the scandal, Luke vanished from public view. Rumors occasionally surfaced of him running a small food truck on a quiet street. They said his carefully prepared dishes, made with an attention to quality, were surprisingly heartfelt. Something no one could have expected from his former self. Perhaps he still carries a love for food deep inside, I thought, reflecting quietly on his path. Meanwhile, Sakura was steadily shaping its new identity. In the afternoon, at the counter, a British family watched Kisaburo craft Edo-style sushi with awe. When the father exclaimed, "Amazing," in delight, an elderly Japanese in a private room savored their charcoal-grilled Wagyu beef with satisfaction. The reservation book was packed with names of both domestic and international guests. Under Kisaburo's guidance, the younger chef's skills were improving rapidly. At the dining area, Kyrie, in her elegant kimono, explained the dishes to guests while I translated and added context in their languages. This had become a natural scene at Sakura. In the kitchen, Kisaburo and the younger chefs worked with serious expressions, honing their craft. Handle your knives more carefully. Never forget to respect the ingredients. Sakura was becoming a place where tradition and innovation blended seamlessly, taking confident steps toward its future. Kyrie and I quietly observed the scene. "Sean, this feels like a dream," she said, her eyes glistening with tears. I gently took her hand, warmth radiating through my palm. At that moment, Kisaburo walked over to us. I quickly let go of her hand, and Kyrie's cheeks turned a deep shade of red. Another secret conversation between you two? Well, it's nice to see you getting along. Perhaps we'll hear some good news soon? Kisaburo said with a sly grin. Oh, Kisaburo! Kyrie tried to hide her embarrassment, though her happiness was evident. It wouldn't be long before we would announce our engagement. As the autumn leaves from the cherry blossom tree drifted down, I reflected on life. Everyone has a place where they can truly shine. Even after setbacks and failures, those experiences can always lead to something meaningful. I thought I had lost everything when my research was stolen and my reputation shattered. But working as a dishwasher at Sakura opened doors to new possibilities. Life is full of unexpected encounters. I now firmly believe that each one of them gives me a hint to live my life as I want it to be.